Hello, and welcome to another episode of Follow. It's the final weekend of October, and we have made our way to Moab, Utah. This was the last weekend the KOA in Moab would be open for the year, and their sites were half off. The temperatures at night were in the low 30s, but the days proved to be very nice. Logan was spending the weekend with his big sister, so Alicia and I were able to have an adventure date. Saturday morning, we headed north from the KOA into town to top off with fuel at the city market. We have been researching some more remote, alternative routes into Arches National Park. One of these routes was utilizing the Willow Springs Road, also known as BLM Road 378, which is accessed via Highway 191, about 13 miles north of downtown Moab.
Why are you laughing?
Because I don't think you'd probably want to be raptured while doing an impression of being a raptor. Or would you?
Dork.
At the Dinosaur track sign, we turned left to stay on Willow Springs Road and head towards the national park boundary. This road is also the entrance to the UtahRaptor State Park, which was newly created in 2021. We used this as an opportunity to air down our tires, assuming there would be rough roads ahead. Once underway again, we were immediately amazed at the numerous designated primitive camping opportunities on either side of the road. Shortly after, we reached the Sovereign Trailhead. There are a lot of ATV trails, as well as hiking and mountain biking trails. Remember, when in a vehicle, these other forms of transportation always have the right-of-way. At the 3.3-mile point from turning off Highway 191, we arrived at the Willow Springs Dinosaur Tracksite. The tracks featured are said to be of sauropod and theropod dinosaurs. After leaving the dinosaur tracks, we came to the national park boundary. Arches National Park was established April 12, 1929, and encompasses 120 square miles. There are over 2,000 documented arches within the park of various shapes and sizes. The road at this point was very well maintained and not very rough at all. It could easily be negotiated in any high-clearance vehicle. We would, however, recommend four-wheel drive for some of the sandy sections or if the conditions changed due to the weather. The Willow Springs Road was actually the official park entrance between the 1930s and 1958. About a mile from intersecting the main paved park road, we turned onto a trail headed north. Had we continued, we would have intersected the park road at Balancing Rock. This trail leads to the Eye of the Whale Arch, as well as Tower Arch, among others. From the turn, it's about 1.9 miles to the parking area for the Eye of the Whale Arch. At this point, the conditions of the trail begin to worsen, and it would only be passable by high-clearance, four-wheel drive vehicles. Arch's National Park boundary is less than 2 miles from the Eye of the Whale Arch, and all of the property between is known as the Herdina Park. From the parking area, it's a short quarter-mile hike to the arch on a well-established trail. This arch has long been used as a gateway into the entire Herdina Park area. The landscape here is a lot more isolated and allows for exploring in more solitude, without the crowds or development of the main park. This unique sandstone feature didn't have a name, but we thought it looked like a giant nose. From the Eye of the Whale Arch parking area, it's another 7.4 miles to the next intersection. The trail eventually begins to follow a sand wash. We enjoyed the tight sections, weaving in and out between trees and other obstacles. Fast, smooth, sandy sections like this always seem to bring out the kid in me. Alicia captured some corny footage of me laughing and giggling and having a grand old time. But since I do the editing, that portion was mysteriously left out. As we neared the top end of the Sandwash we had been following, we came across a fun, fairly steep climb up a sandstone face. After shifting the Jeep into 4-low, I thought I had hit the button for the front sway bar disconnect. Instead, I had accidentally pushed the button for the rear locker, which is why you see the driver's front tire lift and the rear tires bark just a little. Before long, we had broken out on top and could begin to see the area of our next destination ahead. This portion of the park is known as the Klondike Bluffs and is home to Tower Arch, Parallel Arch, and Anniversary Arch. Besides the numerous arches the park is famous for, there are countless other unique rock formations. The vertical pillars you see off in the distance are known as the Marching Men. The 1.3 miles from this intersection to the parking area for Tower Arch is an out and back route as the vehicle portion of the trail terminates. At this point, you are very near the boundary of the park to the west and treated to the magnificent views provided by the south and west ends of the Klondike Bluff area. The quarter-mile hike from the parking area to the arch is very interesting. We started by walking directly towards the arch, but quickly came to a cliff edge. From there, we worked our way down off a ledge and onto a wide sandstone fin, sloping downward and headed south. At the bottom of the fin is a large pinyon tree with a directional arrow installed by the Park Service. There weren't any other markings or signs until we got to the bottom of the arch. We simply negotiated our way through the labyrinth of rugged terrain. The arch itself is awe-inspiring. The 92-foot by 43-foot opening is massive and makes Tower Arch the 6th largest arch in the park. A little bit of scramble climbing and we were able to access an area above the arch looking back down through towards the southwest. Just to the south is a smaller arch named Parallel Arch. The perfect view of this phenomenon was to get right up against the rock face and look directly up. From there, we simply retraced our steps back to the Jeep and headed out. Having just driven this section of trail, it was familiar. But traveling in the opposite direction provided more spectacular views, especially with the snow-covered La Salle Mountains in the background. Back at the intersection, we continued straight towards Salt Valley Road. The trail immediately becomes more challenging, with rock ledges and steep sections both up and down. This long uphill section was indeed steep, but being solid rock, traction was not an issue. It was 1.8 miles from the last intersection to the Salt Valley Road, also known as Arches Salt Wash. Our descent down towards the Salt Valley floor was definitely the most rugged and steep of our day. We were able to slide down off the ledges with ease, but traveling this section in the opposite direction would certainly be more challenging. Once we had completed the steep rocky section, we only had a short, smooth bit of trail ahead of us before intersecting Salt Valley Road. Salt Valley Road is a well-maintained gravel road within the park boundary. It can also be accessed from the north, outside of the park, via Highway 191, just south of the Interstate 70-191 junction. I have never been in that direction, so I can't speak to the condition of the road. However, from where we intersected it to the main paved park road, it was in great shape. It was 7.2 miles from the turnoff onto Salt Valley Road to the main paved park road. As we turned right onto the main road, we could see Skyline Arch in the distance, which is one of the featured arches in the park. From this point, it is 16.5 miles to the visitor center. It was late in the day, so we were able to enjoy the low-setting sun on the beautiful sandstone formations of Arches National Park. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Follow. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe as we have many more adventures to come.